Hello everybody, welcome back to Chuck's Chats. This evening, very much looking forward to this interview. I'm joined by veritable Bective royalty, the Mortell dynasty. We're joined by Maurice Snr, 93 years young, and his son Maurice Jr, who certainly isn't 93 years young. I'm not quite sure what age he is. So I did a bit of research for this, a bit of background work, because I'm a bit of a nerd, and let me tell you, I thought I knew Maurice Snr's background, but I was only scratching the bottom of the barrel. The amount of information, the amount of stories and rugby intelligence and heritage that Maurice Mortell Snr has is absolutely outstanding. So strap yourselves in, sit back, I hope you're going to enjoy this. Maurice, you're very welcome. As I said, 93 years young, you're looking fantastic. What year, Maurice, did you join Bective?
Joined Bective, let me see, I left school at 18, that was 1948. Joined Greystones 2 years, 1950. 1950. September 1950.
Okay, and the background is Tramore and then up to Bray, Sydenham Villas and Bray?
That's right. Well, I actually was born in Bandon, County Cork.
Okay, even more Munster. Excellent, I'm loving it.
Right.
I'm a Munster ultra.
The dad was in the civil service. Now, let's see, independence, was only 8 years old when I was born. 22 to 30, right? And so he was an inspector in the National Health Insurance, civil service, and his area was East Kerry, West Cork, and Bandon was the place of residence when I arrived on the scene.
So you have great pedigree. And then you moved to Bray 1940?
The war had broken out just so it was the first year of the war, 1940, yeah.
Okay, and you were educated in Pres?
November, yeah, was in Pres behind the desk in November of 1940.
Okay, and then once you graduated, you came out of school, you went to Stones for a couple of years, because I was unsure, did you come straight to Bective?
Now, let's get the history of this. Bective was a Pres Bray team. There were fellows from Pres Bray. Pres Bray won the Leinster Senior Cup one and only time in their career. That was in 1932. Okay. And they didn't amass, but they had 9 or 10 fellas who were all terribly good rugby players, and two particular families, the Boyles and the Baileys, the Doyles and the Baileys.
Doyle, good Wicklow name, good Bray name.
and the Baileys were all big men, and all of them played for Leinster, all of them got final trials, and Aidan was an international.
And were they Bective? Did they come to Bective?
No. Aidan was the one who broke ranks. He was in UCD when he was doing medicine, and somehow or another Lansdowne poached him. But he got most of his caps while he was in UCD, but he got his first cap when he was playing for Lansdowne schoolboys, and he was picked to play for Ireland when he was still at school.
Which is most unusual.
Most unusual. Absolutely. I think there was a Hewitt in the north of Ireland did the same thing, but he was certainly in senior class in school when he was. But the other Baileys, Paddy, Kevin, Jerry, all went into Bective.
Okay, but you went to Stone down to Greystones for a couple of years.
Well, no, this is interesting. The flow really from Pres Bray for the good players was into Bective. Mm-hmm. Now, war broke out, 1939. No petrol, no travel, no
So it's
transport.
easier to get on your bike and go over Winegate Hill down into Greystones.
Right. On a bike, as you say, so there was some by the way, the trains ran from wasn't the Dart.
The old steam trains in the days, yes.
Yeah. And so that was the path. So I left Pres 1948 and was out in Greystones in the September of that year, and straight on to the first team. Now, I hadn't been a great schoolboy. I'd stopped growing for some reason at about 12 and didn't start growing again until I was about 16. So,
You were a late blossomer, Maurice.
well, all the genes decided to stop doing anything and sat back. No, I was enjoying myself enormously. It didn't worry me, except I was annoyed when I used to always be picked first in the get-together. Suddenly I was down the road a bit.
But the small guys were usually the fast guys.
Well, and that was it. So there was only one position on the field that I could occupy, and that was scrum half. Okay. So I spent, at one stage in Pres, I was playing on the under the junior team and the senior team. I was the only scrum half. And so consequently I played in the senior cup for 3 years, 46, 47 and 48. There was 46 team was very good and were beaten in the first round of the bloody cup. The next team was a fairly good team and they got to the semi-final. I don't think Pres had been in the semi-final. Oh no, they had since, but it was
beaten in the semi-final.
Yeah, beaten by Rock.
Terrible place to lose.
And we were leading 3-0 with about 10 or 15 minutes to go, and this gobdov a winger missed a tackle, and they got the one try, and I think they beat us. Oh God, what was it?
5-3.
No, it was 13. Once the crack came, once we lost that lead, because that was the one thing you had to be coming out of Press. That was tackling. It didn't matter whether you were big, small, middling, fat, lean.
Man up and
if
tackle.
You missed, you were in trouble. Not alone with the teachers, with even the lads around you. You know, Jesus, Morto, you missed that bloody tackle. And well, it didn't. They didn't. And that lasted all my career. When I used to be going out to play international matches, the one thing that I was afraid of, that in Lansdowne Road, I was going to miss a tackle and some fellow was going to score. It never happened, of course.
Because we know you scored your first.
It's probably worthwhile mentioning that Greystones was a junior club.
Was a junior club then? Yeah, Greystones become senior till late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And Greystones is nearly a feeder club. Kind of, there was a
so
connection.
A lot of the guys that were good would come out from Greystones out to Bective. So later on, guys like Jackie O'Driscoll and those guys came out and played here.
Shawnee Fitzpatrick.
Shawnee Fitz.
Shawnee Fitz, yeah.
Don't mention more. Shawnee Fitz. Joe Nolan came out.
Yeah. And then
he was a great
when it became a senior club, a lot of those guys went back because that was a big thing for them to have a senior club.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so it's great. And it's great to hear you talk about a schools match nigh on 70 years ago. Yeah. And losing in the semi is just the worst place. I lost the schools semi-final in 82 up in Lansdowne Road.
And who were you playing?
I was playing for Clongowes. We were beaten by King's Hospital. Yeah. I think about it once a week. It was 40 years ago. And I know you lost to school's Junior Cup semi-final against Rock. Senior Cup against Rock, and you had a great team. Did you have the Keys and Bobby Montford and yourself, the good few lads on that team?
That was a good team. 1980.
That was Glennon's year, was it?
Brian
Glennon's team, yeah.
He beat us in the replay. We had them beaten in the first.
And I'd say you probably think of it once a week too.
Regularly.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna pause. We'll come back to you. Maurice Jr. is here as well. The junior part of the Mortell dynasty hasn't just been brought as a taxi driver, although it may feel like that. Maurice, so you came out of Pres in
1985.
85.
Yeah.
Okay, and straight into Bective.
Straight into Bective.
No question if you're going down to Greystones.
No.
Okay. And is that to follow your dad or because you wanted to?
Well, a couple of things. I used to come down here with Dad when we were younger and watch, the senior team play, and so I'd kind of been used to coming down here as a young fella. I was in college in the College of Commerce in Ravenhill, so this was actually closer than being out in Greystones. And I'd had a couple of guys that I was paddy with. So Paul Loughlin had come the year before.
Lockie
came out. And Eddie Doherty.
Fast Eddie
had come the year before.
I remember him.
So they were here, and they were two close friends of mine. And I brought down I brought the Russells down and Damien Hopkins and myself off that other senior team. And we came down here and we had a decent 19th team actually with Dan Larkin, and we got to the semi-final with the Macquarie Cup.
That was a Munster boy, the Lark,
and UCDB is Brian Glennon again. Jesus,
no escaping him.
No escaping.
Listen, we lost senior cup semi-final to King's Hoss. the shame.
Yeah.
To beat us 6-3, but I swear if we were still up there, we wouldn't have scored. They were just.
Yeah.
Well, we also lost a junior cup to the same team.
Yeah.
They just had one of these once in a generation.
And you remember
teams.
those matches like it's unbelievable.
Oh, like yeah. But I also remember it's gas. I joined here. I left school in '82 and I went away to work for a while and then moved up to Dublin. And when I came in '88, I was running on the seconds at pre-season training.
Yeah.
And the two wingers from the first were Fast Eddie and Mo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember Maurice coming up, shaking my hand, going, "How are you?" Right. But it was a very firm shake, right? And they were running me on the wing, and I wasn't a winger; I was a fly half.
Yeah.
And it was great. He looked me straight in the eye, and go, "How are you? I'm the first team winger. There's not a chance of you getting my place," which was never going to happen anyway. Okay, so. Let's move on to Bective careers then, because we've got the background. And we'll come back to you, Maurice.
Okay.
So the first 15. When did you start in the first?
Oh, straight on. You see.
Late 40s. No, I'm not trying to.
No,
pin
hold
you
on
down.
a second.
50 you came in, yeah.
1950, I came into Bective. Now, the first year in Bective. Oh yeah, the first game I played was on Bective seconds because the first had no game that weekend. But now, look, I came in from Greystones. I'd been picked on the Leinster Junior side
For
from the
Greystones.
second year in
As a 9 or as a winger?
as a centre.
As a centre, okay.
Because when this speed and size came on in my last year at Pres, I was in the centre. Actually, this gobdaw of a sports teacher in the first cup match. Who was this we were playing? Was it Delassalle? Was it Kingston? However, look, it doesn't matter. He decides in the pavilion here in Donnybrook, and we tugging out, "Maurice, you're going in out half," and Larry, who was Concannon, who had been out half all year, and I in the centre, and we would have, we got used to him.
Yeah, you had a good thing
and
going on.
suddenly, this Egypt thinks he's of course he was only a Gaelic football player. He thought you could move players around.
What would he know?
There was a map, and of course the scrum half and I had never played together. Boom! The ball bounced off my chest, hit the side of my arm. It was a disaster.
Okay.
And a good team, however.
So in here, first game on the seconds.
First game, the second
As a
against
centre.
Turn centre, yeah.
Back picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first had no match. And we beat them. I certainly remember having a good game. You see, I had a lot of speed, and if the defence made any mistake coming up,
You were through
it
the
was a
gap.
hole, yeah. And it was early speed, it was acceleration immediately. That's what it did. However, and so then on to the first game against Wesley. And I think that was one of the only games that team lost in that year. I think it nearly played the whole season. It was certainly until January.
I hope it wasn't attributable to your debut, Maurice, that they lost that match.
I think they underestimated. They didn't give me enough of the ball. Actually, I must say, it was one of the times where I first of all experienced the ethos or the generosity of rugby as it's played. Because I was marking a chap called Karen Duff in the centre on the Wesley team. And immediately the match was finished, he rushed over and he had been playing, I forget what his first name was, on the Wesley team for a couple of years before.
So well established.
And he shook my hand and he said, "You're going to be a great player," or something like that. And I sort of said, nobody had ever done this thing before. But it was, it stayed in my mind.
They were always very magnanimous, the Protestants. It was in the breeding.
And certainly, I must say, I was, and I remember to this day, what the hell was his first name? Well, of course, this age is the term.
Well, he was a bit of a seer because he was right. You made a good impression because shortly after that, the 53-54 season, you were the club captain.
That's right. Once things got going, I tell you what, there was a thing about that Bective team. There was a Newbridge out half called Jerry Kenny, one of the Kennys. What I forget people's first names. Mick Kenny. He never took more than 2 steps with the ball and moved it, but he straightened the back line and everybody was running and
Created
and
the
the
space for
momentum
everybody else.
was great.
Yeah.
Well, now you were all running straight at your men, and the number of fellas now, and you're talking about serious players, you know, the Jackie Kyles and the Cliff Morgans that I played with them, that run across, and once it started running across, everybody is running across.
And then the touchline
and,
becomes your enemy
and the
because you run out
guys
of
coming out
space.
of the back of the scrum, everybody's pushed out, and I heard Jackie Kyle being lauded right, left and centre, and Jackie was taking a little bit too much out of the ball at the beginning. No, he was when he made a break, he could sidestep and swerve and do the did.
We'll come to Mr. Kyle. I have heard of him. We'll come to
But
him.
I'm just
So
saying-
yeah, so you were the
but that-
captain,
that-
53, 54.
But that 53 Bective team was one of the most enjoyable teams I ever played with, and I put a lot of it down to Mick Kenny.
Okay.
And actually a brave guy was scrum half, Lorcan O'Brien, one of the O'Brien family there. His eldest brother had played for Bective before the war. The Rock O'Brien, they called him Brian O'Brien, he was a hooker. But Lorcan was about 4 or 5 years older than I was, and he had come from Greystones as well, and he was scrum half on that side. And a chap called Joe Malloy, who came with me from Greystones, and he played in the centre as well.
Okay, so that team, obviously, you were onto something good because the next 2 seasons, 55 and 56, you won the Leinster
Well,
Senior
actually,
Cup.
God, it's just it's come into my mind, and I must mention it. The Bray clique, there were 7 or 8 of us who had been Pres Bray and were now, all of them had been in Greystones, but at different times, and now we're all together in Bective. It was Madden and Sonny O'Neill and John, a couple of, 1 or 2 forwards, I think, and Joe Malloy, who had been on the Leinster Junior into Pro team with me in Greystones and had come into Bective with me, Joe wasn't getting onto the team. So Lorcan O'Brien, who was kind of the senior man of this group, said, look, Morto, you could play on the wing. So how about you moving on to the wing and Joe goes into the centre? So I said, sure.
Jeez, Maurice, it's beginning to sound like my career. I started at a 9 and then was a 10.
Well,
and then in the final year in school I
absolutely.
was at 12. And another couple of years I'd have probably been 16 on the touchline.
I played 9 until my last 2 years in school.
Yeah, and then,
Centre, out half.
yeah, and you were on the wing here by
I
the
played
time.
the centre for the first couple of years of the senior team and then onto the wing, yeah.
Okay. So that team morphed into something good because I was looking at the background. So 55 and 56 won the Leinster Senior Cup back to back, and some of the names I know. So there was Mick and Bobby Cuddy, Paddy O'Donoghue, Renter Out, Jerry O'Dwyer was on the team, Butch Costello, and a certain Welsh guy called Cliff Morgan.
Yep. Now I got pally with Cliff.
How did that transpire? How did Cliff Morgan end up in
Interesting.
Bective?
When Cliff was working for a guy called Davies, and he started a big engineering firm down in Wicklow, and Cliff was employed by him over in Wales, and he transferred to now Des O'Brien, who played number 8 on the Irish teams that won the Triple Crown and
the golden
championship,
years,
the golden
48
years,
to 52,
that's right.
52,
The name you know.
Yes, I do, yeah.
He was an old Belvederian, so Cliff said, right, I play with old Belvedere, but now at this stage he was the star of rugby. Never mind at Wales, you know. I mean, he was the most exciting guy on the field of all time.
Was he better than Kyle?
Oh, well, as a runner and an exploder. But he was another guy who took too much out of the ball. I mean, he had 2 Welsh centres with him, Bledden Williams and Jackie Matthews. And jeez, no, they were both big blocky fellas, so they could take the punch. But Cliff would use up a lot of the space.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the same.
Okay, we're going to... No, I'm not cutting you off. We'll come back to
But I was trying to get back to the line of thing we were on.
So club captain 53-54 season, then you won the double 55-56.
Yeah.
And
Old Cliff it was we were on.
and in the middle of all that,
because of my ability, he came to join Bective.
And did you get him into Bective?
Well, pretty much, because I was the next stop. Because I had been, playing for Ireland and Wales beforehand at the dinners after.
Yeah, so we would.
Oh yeah.
And did he live? Was he living? You said he was working in Wicklow.
He was living down in Wicklow. Oh no, he was living in Wicklow.
In Wicklow Town.
Yeah, Wicklow Town. Yeah.
Okay.
He was in digs there. Well, yeah. Larkin O'Brien, and that chap I mentioned.
Yes.
He was down in Wicklow too, but he was working for one of the fertiliser companies, and he was in the same hotel as guest house. I think it was hotel or guest house. No, it wasn't the Grand. It was the
budget didn't stretch that far.
It was the one. Well, David. Yeah. I think Cliff got a bit pissed off towards the end. He was. When he made his way back
How long did he play? How many seasons?
I think 2.
Yeah.
Would be as many.
And then back to Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was impossible to play with. He was
Was
so
he a bit of a-
mercurial.
Was he a bit of a Tony Ward? You didn't know what he was going to do next?
But he was capable of. He had great acceleration. He had a wonderful use of his body. Tony is very much a kicker. He could put a ball on the sixpence, and that was his game. And he'd kick 10 points for all over the field. But Morgan was an exciting. Jeez, he was holy terror. I remember a fella missed a penalty. It was in a cup match. And I was minding my business. He touched that down. The next thing he takes off behind his man. So I have to take off like an idiot after him. So we come up to the 25. The opposition are spread out. It was Monkstown, I think. And the next thing back. And I have to run 75 yards and feckin' lands down in this ball kicked off nearly in the mat. I mean, that's it. He did the most extraordinary thing.
But winning the Leinster Senior Cup, that was as big as it got in those. So the provincial thing wasn't really around. So it was all about club. Bective was a powerhouse.
Nothing
then.
mattered. Senior rugby, when I played it, was the Leinster Senior Cup. And I can tell you what, it was years afterwards, a fellow who was captain of the English team, and in actual fact, I think he got presidency of the rugby football union, Don White. Don White was a wing forward. And I said to him one day, Don, I said, I can't understand how a team like Bective can come over here and play teams like Northampton and Leicester in the one weekend and beat you. I said, wait, you guys have this huge selection. You've been 5 or 6 internationals or something like that. And he said, I'll tell you why it is. He says, you fellas know how to compete in cup rugby. And I said, what do you? He said, you have a thing called the Leinster Schools Cup. He said, that is probably the most competitive rugby.
And still is.
Yeah.
And this was a fellow who was captain of England, who was able to tell me, and I sat back and thought about it, I said,
He's bloody right. And we were only shooting the breeze about it 10 minutes ago. We still remember we're all long stopped playing.
Yeah.
So he's right, and it's true for today. The Leinster schools and to a lesser extent Munster and Ulster, but the schools competitions here, they can be very unfair in that you have one bad day and you're out first week of January and it's all over. Yeah. But it does teach you that winning mentality and how to get yourself out of the hole, and there's no second chance.
And it's hugely competitive now. It's producing incredible talent.
Well, I had great admiration for Don. Had that spotted, I said, this fellow really knows what the game of rugby is about.
So slightly different then by the time you came in, because the AIL was just starting. I think started in 1991. 91. I think, was it the Cookies won it first? Gary Owen won it first.
Yes,
and then the Cookies won it, So that was a competitive league, which is completely different from your dad's time, where they were playing friendly games all the way up until January when the Cup started. So you said you came in and you played a few games in the centre, but you were more or less straight onto the first team after the 19s, right after the Macquarie Cup team.
Pretty much, and that team would have been John Joe Riley, Pearl John Joe was Jim Riley. Jim Riley was captain of that team. He was killed in a car crash. And Brendan Murphy, Harry Harrison.
Brendan Murphy, who never missed a penalty in his life. Titch Kavanagh,
Harry, Brandon, Nicky Brown, or Ben Keeley was playing on that team. But myself and Dan came up, and Eddie came off the 19s onto that side.
And I mean, Delark was a special player.
Incredible.
Yeah. We only got a couple of years out of him before he went back
he was
down.
up in DCU doing chemical engineering, I think it was.
That siege gun kick of his.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
Delark, and sure, look, he went and played for Munster. He did nothing.
But Munster
You
got
have a
down to
list
Gary
of
on,
the length of your arm of fellas who never got an Ireland cap, and you'd wonder why not. But Delark was a great player.
He was great.
Yeah,
he really was. And that was a good side. But the Senior Cup was still. So we had the Leinster Senior League, which was the league competition was played for Leinster teams, and then you had the Senior Cup. They were still the two big competitions for us until the
AIL. Yeah, and we started in the second division, and we had, you know, I can think back in those times, we had a great team.
And we started in the third division, I think, and we got promoted.
Did we?
We had one promotion out of the. So after first year we got out. We again, that was a pretty decent side.
Yeah, that was a great side.
Noel was coaching that team, and we had the Mary's guys come in, and we had Kurt and the Phil was there, and Trevor, Brian Cusack, and you know it was
Cusack and Kevin Murphy in the row. Back row would have been
Ian Dwyer,
Trevor. We got Ian Dwyer up from Carlow. It's a fine player as well.
So a lot of Derek Darcy kicking penalties from all over the place. Johnny Muldoon was great at 9.
At 9, down from Mary's. We've got a few Mary's guys down.
Came in.
Monty, the enforcer, took over that role from Trevor more or less.
Pretty much. After Trevor left, and I mean that team was able to compete with any team in the league.
Correct, and we just kept getting pipped to the top of Division 2.
Yeah, so 2 years in a row we got pipped. Now we lost a game out here against City of Derry. I mean, just unbelievable. 8-3. Like you'd break your heart.
Yeah.
I mean, we had them beaten, and I think guys scored from the fucking side, scored from a kick-off.
I was involved in the backroom team here. Heartbreaking stuff.
Ran down the touchline and scored. I mean, it was unbelievable, and we missed out by a point.
And we had such, as you said, there's a similarity between now, because in the present day team, we're playing in the Leinster League, which is an absolute dogfight. Any team can beat any team on its day. There's only 8 of us in there.
Yeah.
We've won it twice, and then heartbreak in the playoffs.
Yeah.
In Stonians, the first year, they went through 2C like a knife through butter, unbeaten, 14 matches unbeaten. Lost out last year to Clogher Valley. They went through unbeaten, right? And they're both now flying through their respective leagues. Clogher Valley are flying through the.
So
I
this
think
shows
they're
the
6 or
standard.
6.
The difference. Is
so if we
minuscule.
could get out, we could compete. There's no question. Which has a huge similarity to that great Bective team of the early 90s in the AIL.
That Leinster League is an absolute.
But the trouble is that the North of Ireland blooming teams that you have to beat then, having got out of the Leinster thing, are nearly always, they're churning out, and it was the same in my time. The game against Ulster was always the best game of rugby of the year, because everybody knew the game to their fingertips. Munster, they kicked everybody off the field. Anything above the grass was fair enough, but it wasn't rugby. It was a slog. Connacht was a bit too soft, but luckily the Ulster, we knew you were in for it.
We have to beat what's put in front of you. So you were club captain as well, Maurice, following your dad's. You were club captain for 2 years, weren't you?
2 years in a row,
93, 94, 95, 90.
93, 94, 95,
And then that team...
It broke up,
Broke up, people retired, stuff changes, and then Noel moved on, and Harry Williams came in, and that was kind of the...
I had 1 year with Harry, and then I finished playing.
Okay.
That team broke up. We were, in order to compete, we were getting a lot of players, new players in every year, just to straight into the senior team.
Harry brought a good few lads down from Bangor with him, good players, coming in.
From Wesley, Des came in, and Andrew Johnson. Byrne and Mark Edwards came in. The halfbacks.
David Webb, was it David Webb? No, Mick Webb, Mark.
He came in, but he was in earlier. He played with us. Earlier than that. So I mean, that team petered out, unfortunately, but it's a matter.
Look, it's a new era now. It's their team. It's not ours anymore, and they're building their own legacy, and hopefully it'll be a good legacy.
Absolutely,
I've come to realise that while the whole rugby focus tends to be about the first team and getting up into the AIL, there's a whole lot more to this club than just that, and if that doesn't happen, we're in a much better place now than we were. Just the whole club, the social side, the facility side, everything is
I don't come down that often, but I've come down to a number of the lunches. I mean, the atmosphere is fantastic.
It's great. It's a great community.
And I've said this to loads of people. You know, be careful what you wish for, because what makes this place so special is what's in this clubhouse before and after games. And you know, the All Ireland League, whilst it has to be the ambition for the club to go up there, I get that, but that can tear the soul out.
It can. Look, it's like any good club or any good business. It's all about the people.
Yeah.
There's a great quote. I'm in business. You're in business. And there's a great quote by a guy called Richard Dupree. He was CEO of Procter and Gamble, and in the war, just after the war years, 47, Europe was a rubble. They was trying to rebuild everything, and he came out with this brilliant quote long before there was ever PR gurus around giving you mottos or mission statements. And he said, if you leave us our buildings, our brands and our money, but take away our people, the business will fail.
Yeah.
But if you take away our buildings, our brands and our money, and leave us our people, we can rebuild the whole thing in 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's the essence of this place. This place is all about the people. It's a rugby club and a social club, and it's a family, and we need to protect that and keep it going.
Actually, it's part of the Dublin fabric.
It is.
Because the hops in Bective, my mother, I'm 93, my mother and father were both Dubs.
And used to dance out
They
here?
they didn't know, they never did, but both of them, coming from different parts of Dublin, knew about the Bective Saturday night dances.
And they went on for years and years.
Well, that was it.
Sadly, that's gone, but look, the youth,
But
they have different things
put it
going
up,
on.
you know, it left its...
It's part of the fabric of this
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
club, part of the history of it. So you went on then from, after your playing days, Maurice, you were Bective president here in 97, 98 season.
Yeah, well, I must say, in all fairness, I immediately got stuck into the Alakadu end of things. I think in those days, if you got married, that's okay. But as soon as your first son is born, and Mark was born, I think when I was 29 or something. So at 30 years of age, I stopped playing, even though I was perfectly fit and could. So I went straight into the Alakadooing end of things.
Which is a very important part of the family
Yeah,
of the club as well.
that's right.
Yes.
And you know, yeah.
We lived up in Storban, so we were very close. So we'd come down here with Mum and Dad, and that's when I got exposed to the club
Atmosphere,
and the
yeah.
atmosphere and the matches out here and the matches out there, and
Yeah.
everyone coming in afterwards. So it was a big
Crack
part of
was-
fantastic.
You know, I know it's all part of our
That's
memories
gone back.
when
That's
we were young.
70s. That is,
Yeah.
you know, that's sort of early.
So that's before my time. I was early 80s and I didn't
Yeah, this is
actually
sort of
join in the late
72,
80s.
73 kind of time, and coming down, and there'd be Claude would be in there doing the teas and coffees. I remember after the matches and biscuits for everyone coming in. First you came in, you get free tea and coffee. Before you came into the bar, you had that first, and then you came in here and
My uncle was in UCD, it was in Earlsford Terrace. He was doing
Oh, yeah.
veterinary, and the veterinary college was
Was
down
down, that's right.
on Shelburne Road.
And Des O'Connor of this club was boss man of that veterinary college. Yeah.
We'll see. And my uncle was from Tramore as well. Both my parents are from Tramore. Cork, my mother's from born in Dunmanway, quite similar, but raised in Tramore. My father's from Tramore as well.
I loved him.
But he was in veterinary college, and I told him when I was in this club, he said, I used to go to hops in Bective when I was in college. It's like there's people all over the country have some sort of connection.
Yeah, yeah.
I keep using the word, there's a grow for this club from people, not just members, but people. You never hear somebody coming in here going, this is shit, I don't like it here. Everybody comes out and goes, it's great.
Yeah.
So Bective president, Alakadu, and you're still here. What about yourself? So your playing days are over. Have you any ambition to move into the look, you're a very successful businessman, Maurice, so you could bring a lot in terms of the executive and maybe moving on to the big green razor?
Yeah. No, you're right. I think so. For a year after I retired, I didn't do anything. I stopped. I didn't come down at all. I was kind of still, the trauma of not playing was still weighing very heavily on
What am I
me.
going to do with myself?
But I did direct rugby for 4 years.
Right, okay. So that's probably, I disappeared for 20 years.
Yeah, so
Had children,
I
same
was,
thing.
I did that, and so Ed Martin was coaching the team, and but we were constantly trying to, the funding was always really difficult every year. The budget got tighter. you're trying to recruit under 20s to feed in, to build a kind of a team that ultimately would have, that would be sort of self-bred in the club. It was always very difficult, so you kept on.
And it remains.
We
to
were bringing in the
same
gaps
position.
into
Yes.
the senior team. So when Byrne and Mark were playing, I was director of rugby here. After Ben Jr. had finished, and we got in Warren Johnson. Do you remember Warren, the boot?
After my time.
Okay, yes.
I have a 20-year gap.
Yeah, and I suppose at the same time, just around the time just before I finished up, that my business career started to take off from the point of view of the amount of time it was taking and a lot of travelling going on, and it just became impossible.
All consuming. Yeah, which is, you got to make a living.
And I had to, I stepped away, and I mean, to be honest with you, that's kind of the last official job I had here, and I've come down since then and watched matches and seen teams come and go and the whole.
But you're well established. I'm going to pull you in now. I'm a salesman. I'll always be closing. You're well established in the business. Jordan is playing in a band. He's grown up. I can't remember your daughter's name, but she's grown up too.
They're all grown up, yeah.
So we need to get you
growing up, yeah.
We need to get you sent in yourself maybe back in.
Yeah.
That's not what your club can do
It's
for
time
you.
for everything.
That's what you can do for your
It's
club.
time for everything.
I'm going to move to the part I'm most looking forward to, because it's not often I get to shoot the breeze, sit having a pint with an Irish international who played on a team with Jackie Kyle and a number of other famous people, but also played with Cliff Morgan. So you're international number 611 and you got your first cap, I've done my homework here, in January 52 up in Ravenhill against France.
53.
53. Okay, I'm not. Indeed, it is 53. Sorry, jeez, I should have known that. So talk me through where I want to get on this, because I'm a real nostalgia buff.
Okay.
So nowadays, if you get picked for Ireland, it's a PR release on Instagram and Facebook, and they bring your family in to present you with your first cap. Back in the olden days, you probably got a letter from somebody and told you'll get one jersey, one pair of shorts, one pair of socks for the season, and if you lose them, you're dead. And if you buy anything on the tab in the Shelburne or wherever you're staying, we'll charge you for it. Tell us about your first cap, and how did you find out about that, Maurice?
I tell you, yeah, it was extraordinary. Now, I hadn't been picked for the final trial. Now, I was on the Leinster team for, I suppose 2 or 3 years before I played for Ireland. And I scored a lot of tries. I was a very good finisher. Mm-hmm. This is what I think. These are what wing three quarters are. Or they should be.
And meet your son,
you
who was also a finisher. You're there to score tries.
Yes, that's right. And it's up to the other fellas to give you the space to show your talent. And so the final trials were picked, and I wasn't on either team, neither the probables or the possibles. But because the newspapers exploded, and I remember the Irish press, it was, we assume Mortell is already
it's already on the team. We don't even need to
we're
know.
now looking for another winner.
They were embarrassed into.
So it was a bit of a.
No, I'm only starting the story. So I went along to the final trial, and I was sitting up in the stand, and the 4 guys who were on that field were gobshites. Well, they weren't. They were very ordinary. Mm-hmm. I won't mention the names, but
please don't.
They
have families.
You warned me off already, and but the evening, I think of the following Saturday, there was the annual dinner, and it was in the Central Hotel, and I can remember that. And then suddenly somebody came in and said, the Irish team has been announced, and Maurice, you're on. So without playing in the final trial, I was picked straight onto the team.
And were you surprised, or did you have a feeling?
Of course I was surprised. For fact sake, I mean, there's 5 selectors, and 2 of them are each of the Munster and Leinster, and the one.
And the voting was very parochial back in those days.
And you can print.
Yeah.
And by the way, we might get round to it at some stage, but I had a little dip in that field myself when I was on the other side.
Okay.
But so I was elated, and I can remember I rang. Telephones were fairly scarce, so I rang a next door neighbour to our house in Sydenham,
which would have been very common, actually. Yes.
So they nipped in to get to Da, and I can remember saying, Da, I'm on. And he said, you sound like you're well on. No, he wasn't a very,
Emotional, yeah.
that kind of a person. And so I, at that state in my mind, so it was a bit of a surprise, but not really, you know. Although I mind you, I worried a lot as soon as he came to, well, now what's going to happen, mate? You're out in Lansdowne Road.
But it was in Ravenhill your first.
Oh, sorry, Ravenhill.
Was up in Bed. So how did you? Was it train up there with the team, or did you meet?
I said, oh, for Christ's sake, I put something in my pocket, or did I? I did, and it's
Is it in your jacket now?
it slipped out.
Okay.
And it was you got a letter saying
From the onset
we're
of the union.
inviting you
Yes.
to play up.
Dear Mortell, not Dear Morris.
Oh, Dear
Dear
Mortell.
Mortell.
In your other pocket, in your back pocket, or was it in the...
Yes, there it is there.
There you go. I didn't know. There you go, jeez, what a load of stuff on. Now, there's a piece of history.
And I haven't got my specs.
I'll read it out. Do you mind if I read it
No,
out?
that's one of the...
Only on Bective Rangers TV, folks. This is about the Manchester tour,
Oh, is it all for facts sake, the wrong thing?
but we'll read this in a minute as well.
Sorry to have a look at it and see.
No, I haven't got it. But the thing was, you've been picked. You meet. We meet you at. Where to do it? Was it? I think it was.
The Gresham.
No, I think it was Union Street Station. I have an idea. It was because we went up by train.
Mm-hmm.
As all the Leinster fellas, I suppose, the Munster guys,
And
the Connacht.
Well, there would be no Connacht
No,
in those days.
that's right.
They didn't get looking. They didn't
The
have a
guys
selector.
got out of their bed. Yeah, so that was it. The only information I had on the French team was the fella that I was marking had been on the French Olympic sprint
Relay team.
Relay team.
Okay, that must have filled you with
Oh,
confidence.
Jesus. An Olympic sprinter.
Yeah, how fast?
So up to Belfast.
Up to Belfast, yeah.
Fantastic. I want to read this. I know it's often a slight tangent, but
Go on.
it'll give people a kind of a feel for the time. This is from the ONSEC of Bective Rangers, AJ Curtis, and it's about the Manchester tour from the 6th to the 9th of October 1950. At least they called you Sir, they didn't call you Mortell.
Is that?
Dear Sir, you have been selected to travel to Manchester for matches against Broughton Park and Wilmslow. There will be a meeting of all the touring party in the Pavilion Donnybrook at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, October the 4th. And it is essential that each member attends and pays the team manager his £4. No player will be permitted to travel if his contribution is not paid on the Wednesday night. There's a sign of the times. If you are not in possession of a passport or travel permit, you must call to the passport office, number 1 Palace Street, off Dame Street, bringing with you a photograph, a stamp and a birth cert. This should be attended to immediately. The headquarters of the team will be the Albion Hotel, Market Street, Manchester. The payment of £4 covers your rail and boat fare, bed and breakfast Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I love this one. Other meals and expenses will have to be paid by each individual. And then it gives the itinerary departing Westland Row, out to Dunleary, night boat over to Holyhead, train up to Manchester. That's fantastic. That's
Will you keep that?
Brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. I also have, and I just want to show you this, because at this stage you're now up in Ravenhill for your first cap.
Right.
And I'm a nerd. This is the Grand Diane, Ned Van Esbeck's History of Irish
Oh,
Rugby,
right.
heavy jump.
I think I have that at home.
And he's talking, and here is a picture
Yeah.
of Jackie Kyle, who was christened the Scarlet Pimpernel by the press after this. They seek him here, they seek him there.
A.P. McWeeny, I think, wrote his article.
Yes, because nobody could catch him.
That's right.
And here's Kyle going in for his try, and here's you on the wing. And I'm looking, I'm going, he's after doing the ball. He's taking it himself, because he's taken both defenders in now on a soft shoulder, and if he'd have passed you, you'd have scored in the corner.
Yeah.
But you had to wait, Maurice, for your second match, which is 2 weeks later.
Do you know why they're all on the wrong foot? Kyle.
Thank you.
Because Kyle had jinked in.
Sorry. About 10 or 15 minutes before that time, I'd had a go at this
French sprinter.
winger. Yeah, and he was not a good attacker. Yeah, I mean, you could put that foot and go, and you'd be gone the other way, and he would be spreading you. And I knew they were very nervous about me. So when Jackie fielded that kick, it was a kick to touch that
didn't make it.
They didn't make it, and Jackie got it and ran, and so I got round outside him, and he did that, and I having given them the fright a couple of minutes beforehand. Now, all those guys, and that I love that picture because they're trying to get back. They were quite sure
that he
was going to give it to me.
Yeah.
Because I had,
And he was in under the six.
and I think, well,
We, at home, by the way, we have the end of that, the picture.
Okay.
So the picture, as it's finished, is Jackie scoring the try, with the guys heading towards the touchline.
Yeah, try and catch him and he hasn't got the ball.
He hasn't got the ball.
So you actually made Jackie Kyle look good.
well, he summed up the situation. I know the credit must go to him, but it was a lovely. But his footwork was magnificent, and it was. I can remember Arthur McWeeny telling me, "Oh no, it was the sports," because I was working with one of the oil companies at the time. They had relationships with them and all those, but he was on his way to get the train to come down from Belfast, and he had one shutter left or whatever, the place they had in the camp, and he was had come down from the
stand down to pitch level,
and he was and he just turned around and hit the thing, and they didn't realise the photograph they had until
he got back down to
not even him, but I think the arts editor, the guy who'd be
the
looking at the photographs. So they said, "Oh Jesus," because all the guys who are caught off foot. I think that's the beauty of that.
It's a fantastic photo.
Because these guys are trying to get now back, having committed themselves.
Now, obviously, the photo, I spent a lot of time looking at it because you're in it, but they should have given it a little bit more. It's a big tone. They should have given it. But you said you have it at home.
Well, I have you have the end of it, which is the try, and also that photo was in Larry Murphy's for years, which is Phil's dad's pub.
Downstairs on the way
it was
to
all over the country.
On the way down,
Remember,
it was a big, huge one. And
I was drinking there when I was country.
I used to say my arse is in every.
Well, I say it is. So you beat France 16-3 on your debut, and then 2 weeks later, it's that perfidious Albion, Britain, England.
Oh God!
In Lansdowne Road.
I tell you
so
something.
that must have been brilliant playing in your hometown.
I was working in Westmoreland Street, and a chap came into the office and said, the English team are training down at Trinity College Park. And I said, is that right? Right, I said.
Go down for a little gander.
So I'm bloody sure. So down I went and to College Park, because it was only, down Nassau, down West Road, Nassau Street, bang, you're into College Park. And there, the English team the forwards were doing their bit, and the backs were passing the ball, running up and down. And in the middle of them was this big second row forward, big fair-haired fellow. And I said to some lad who was leaning over the rainbow, who's that? Oh, he said, that's Woodward, the English wing.
And he thought it was the second row.
Oh, sweet divine
So
God.
you've gone from marking a French Olympic sprinter to a second row size lad on the wing for England.
Look, I nearly died. This guy is between 14 and 15 stone. And I mean, and I know I've been in the English Sunday papers, you sort of read results, and he's scoring tries every bloody week.
Now you knew why.
And in Lansdowne Road, in front of my own crowd, and so I said, well, I'm just going to be killed.
But just go back to your Pres Day head. Don't miss any tackles.
But that's it. So a fellow I'd been at school with, was in the Clan same class, Neil Bailey, now emigrated to, and played with Northampton, was actually he was one of that Bailey family I was lauding there earlier on. And so I got in touch with Neil and said, for God's sake, Neil, how is this guy to be marked? So he rang me back and said, look, Maurice, grab anything, any part you can, and hang on. And that's exactly what I had to do for the entire afternoon. And
but you scored a try.
No, I tell you the interesting thing. We had the dinner in the Shelburne, in the
Gresham.
No, the Shelburne. That's right. And afterwards, there'd be various rooms that there were drinks, you know, the Irish selectors, you know, the various people, and we'd be wandering around the corridors, bumping into. And so, who did I bump into on my transit from one of the things to the other? It was the bold Ted Woodward. So I know I had a couple of bottles of stout in me at the time, and so I said, Ted, you have no idea how much I dreaded trying to take you on. And he said, you little bastard, how do you think I felt? He said, and who scored that effing try?
Only you. So listen, as a rugby player and a middling rugby player, for any kid you dream of scoring a try for your country.
In Lansdowne Road.
And you've just, so let's not gloss over this. Talk us through that. What do you remember of it? Because it's Roy the Rover stuff.
I can tell you, the Irish centres of my era, with the exception of Kevin Quinn, let me write that down in large, biggest print I could get, because he was the only centre three-quarter who thought of what his job was to make room for the win. Yes. To the right. So, this time, as usual, Henderson makes his burst through the middle and passes inside. Again, Jim McCarthy. Jim gets the ball, throws it over everybody in one of these overhead things and into my hands.
How far out were you at that stage, Maurice?
About the 25, I'd say, or maybe 30. So Nim Hall is the full-back English out half of other years, but he was picked out half. I think a Martin Regan was in it out half. And so I run straight up to, and just a little jig, and of course he's gone. And
in the corner.
And coming across is the far winger, and he was a bad bastard because he played for Lancashire, and I had met him, I forget in what previous game, and when he hit you, it was to hurt you. It was to hurt you.
Tough Northern guys.
And there's guys who tackle you, and they're hard tackles, but they're not, they're genuine, you know. But this was a fellow who was looking for something to do. And I said, oh Christ almighty, I better get there. So I can remember getting over that line and getting that ball down and shooting.
So paint the picture for us. Which corner was it, do you remember?
Lansdowne Road end and the far
East End. Yeah, okay. And the crowd erupts.
Well, there's the thing. It happened twice. They scored the try in Belfast towards the end of the game. And when I ran back to join the lads at the halfway line when the convert has been taken, the crowd all stood up and clapped. Okay, a fella, first cap, scores a try, great. The Lansdowne crowd all stood up and clapped that particular try. Billy Jeffers, the secretary of the
RFU,
said, Maurice, we can't be having this. You know, we know in rugby we don't separate any people out. And I said, oh, Billy, I can't do anything about it. I said, jeez, I'm only going back to join. But that was the now, and I agree with it largely. It takes 15 men to score a try.
No
right.
team,
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if Jim McCarthy hadn't done that, if Henderson hadn't burst through, you know.
So when all the stuff got archived by Pathé News, and we found it all eventually. Not too long ago, my middle brother John, worked with ITN for a while, and he was able to get the footage. So we have all the footage of all the
That's brilliant.
tries. Yeah.
That's
Fantastic.
brilliant.
Like
We
you only
might-
get, like they were newsreels, so they were on in the cinema. So you get the dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
And the guy with the terribly posh
And
accent.
it's all this
Oh, and
the
all
shaking
that.
hand, yeah, and then but it'll give you all the scores.
And is it all that slightly at a faster pace than it is normally? Yes, yeah.
And it's a big
Yeah,
brain.
and the editing is appalling.
Yeah, and
there's a guy
sometimes
running and
there's only
that's
music, and sometimes
Yeah.
there's no commentary. But
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Now I'm going to throw something at you. We might try and see if we can get that up on Bective TV. We have a whole
Sure.
yeah. Page on the website for Bective TV. I think it'd be brilliant.
So they're
archive
all
to
on
have.
the Well, I mean, I've got the links now because they're all online now.
Okay, excellent. If you could send them,
Yeah,
that
sure.
that would be brilliant. So
Straight away, Ireland come back again. McCarthy evades a tackle and throws a long pass over to Mortell, who races it towards the English line to chalk up another 3 points for Ireland. Then, with only seconds to go, Mortell streaks through the Scottish defence to make a comfortable touchdown. There's no conversion, but by 6 points to 0, Ireland score their 9th consecutive victory over Scotland.
it'd be brilliant. So
Yeah.
you drew with England that day,
3-3, that's right.
and then you beat Scotland in Edinburgh, and you were beaten by Wales over in Swansea, and England ended up winning the championship that year. They did. England won the championship. But the notable part about that year, 53, that's when Cliff Morgan made his debut for Wales. So he was in good company playing with you, Maurice.
And we played that Welsh game. But
In
I
Swansea.
tell you, there was a thing happened. Kevin Quinn, who was my centre for France, England, Scotland.
Yeah, got dropped for the Welsh match.
No, worse again. Now, I just run back the reel a bit.
Absolutely.
I had such admiration from Kevin Quinn from the time I was about 14 or 15 years of age, when my father, first of all, brought me into Lansdowne Road to see. I think it was the Kiwis, the New Zealand team at the end of the war played a Leinster selected in Lansdowne Road, and the dad took me in the train, and that was the first rugby match I ever saw, and it was a great game.
You were hooked straight off.
Yeah,
then, yes.
but now, and it was a game of rugby that is still in my mind. I can still, and all the Leinster fellas became, but the man who stood out was Kevin Quinn in the centre for that. Now, and consequently, now Belvedere won the Leinster Senior Cup about 6 or 7 years in succession, with Quinn's
playing in the centre.
playing, and
Yeah.
on the
Running the whole
three
thing.
or four of them, you know, and Belvedere gave them enough of the ball, and Kevin was, to my God. Now, when we played the first game against France up in Belfast that year, we were talking out in the pavilion under the stand and all the noise, and Kevin, who was about 6 or 7 years older than I was, comes over and sits beside me and says, "Maurice, will you keep on talking to me during the match?" And I said, "Why, Kevin, what's so bad?"
Got a head bang, did you?
No, he said, "I get very nervous, I get." He said, so if we're chatting and talking, so I sort of said, "Well, no, this is the first time, and here's my God, coming along."
and he's
And
asking
instead of
you
me going
to talk him through
my
the game.
God, and saying, "Kevin, how do I do this
yeah.
or that?" So there was this great bond between us, you know. Now, we played rugby the normal way, absolutely, and only every now and again to be the odd. Well, as far as I was concerned, you know, I was dealing with my own game. You're playing a bloody international fight, and you're looking after your own patch and all the rest. But I was aware of it. Now, on the Tuesday or Wednesday before that Welsh game, I got a phone call from Kevin and said, "Maurice, I've cried off." And I said, "Oh, bloody hell, Kevin." I said, "What's wrong?" Assuming it was an injury. I said, "No, I couldn't take another
Mentally wasn't
game."
up to it.
Well, this
Pressure can
no,
be
Kevin
overwhelming.
Quinn, who played in all the tea time, British Army, Irish games, was dropped by the Irish selectors after the first or second international after the war. And on the selection panel was his brother, Jerry Quinn. And I was often scratching my head, how in the name of God did it? And I have an idea that Kevin, the pressure, now I tell you, it is, you know, going out to Lansdowne Road, you know, now 50,000 guys, your relations, people, you know, everybody, and they want to see you do, and if you drop a climber, you're bloody letting down everybody.
Yeah, the ripple of disappointment.
And you know, the pressure is, and evidently, and I could understand what Kevin, and he never played again for Ireland.
Okay. Well, you look at young Owen Farrell announcing this week, well, he's not so young, that
he's
slagging
just,
and the emotional
and
abuse
it's not an injury.
No, he's just, I need to take some time out.
It must be huge, intense.
And now with the media the way it is.
So now,
and the social media.
Social media means everybody has a voice.
I treat that very gently, you know, whether you can use it at all or not.
No.
Okay, all right. So how many caps did you end up getting in
9, 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, and the last try I scored was against Scotland in Belfast, and as I went for the line, I felt something in my thigh. Now, I never had an injury
in your life.
Well, knocks and bruises and freaking things that you got into the bath and lay there for a long time and eased out, whatever. But this was certainly
something serious.
But and I discovered fairly quickly. I went out to have a training run. I said, I'll run this off, and instead of that, it got worse. So what was I didn't know? And I went to the doctors. My local doctor hadn't a bull's notion.
There's no Century Sports clinic back in those days.
And the only person was Kevin O'Flanagan, who was both an athlete and on some of the teams, and also had all this. But he was over in bloody London he was disappeared to England for about 6 months.
Is this Tim O'Flanagan's dad?
No.
Kevin,
No.
I don't think so.
there was a family, and they were both soccer and rugby internationals.
Anyway,
Mick and Kevin.
You went to see him?
So, but no, I didn't get. So, that was the Scottish, and that was the last game. So there was no more internationals to come.
That season, yeah.
So, but the Bective had a cup match against Wanderers on the next Saturday, or the Saturday after that, I forget which it was. And I said, listen lads, I can't, this bloody leg won't stand up. So they played the match against Wanderers and it was a draw. So they were told to have a replay on the Wednesday of that week. So...
Was that too soon for you to make it back?
Well, it's laughable now. Doc Daly was, now he was a doctor, but he was a lecturer in UCD. I don't think he ever practiced, but he was a Bective member and a very avid supporter. So they decided to inject Novocaine into the...
Why not?
Also, why not? So I don't feel any pain. So I go out to play against Wanderers in the replay, and of course, tear the muscle.
Even more.
It's a torn now. Yeah. It's not a thing. So calcified tissue forms in the muscle, and the genuine speed is gone. You never get it again, and that's where. Billy Morton told me I was the fastest man in Ireland. You know, this is the
Morton Stadium out in Santry.
He was always trying to recruit me.
So did that injury finish your career, Maurice?
Pretty much.
Even your
career? Well, no,
career?
I was able, when eventually, and full marks to him, it was my own doctor, Devlin, it was. He had been reading book, and evidently Jesse Owens, the great American sprinter.
You're moving in some circles. Jesse Owens, the French sprinter.
But this, Dr. Devlin had read that this guy had this calcified tissue in the muscle, and they had discovered by injecting the thing, it softened it up. So instead of it tearing, you know, it kind of, but
became a bit more
again,
pliable.
the level of speed was never going to be the same.
So did you play a couple of years?
So
for
I was
the
able to
Rangers?
play at a lower level, and actually I won 3 bloody cup medals, 1 in Munster and 2 in Leinster
With carrying
with
the injury. Who'd you win the medal for in Munster?
balls
In Limerick.
in Limerick. I was with the oil company and
Go on, boss.
Yeah.
My boss.
Oh yeah, well
Yeah.
done. Well, 1958.
And we also did
If you
Steve
look
Janet
up-
Dolphin.
And I'll tell you what's more, we beat Highfield,
Highfields.
I think 6-0 or something in the final. 2 tries scored by,
And Mortell.
but Nicky English kicked everything.
Listen, you're dropping so many names here, I'm going to have to get a skip to pick them all up. Mickey
Well,
English.
Mickey kicked everything. Well, Tom Cleary and Mickey English were the halves on bows that year, and you know it was a class act. And so, but Mickey would kick the ball, and I would win the race for the for the goal.
So that's a great career playing for Bective and playing for Ireland. Just before we move on, 'cause I need to ask this lad a few questions. You're a driver. Did I hear you say you moved into the selectoral
well,
part of the
yeah.
game for a while?
When I was Alec doing, you know, I became the Bective rep on the branch. So with the international cap, you're almost
Guaranteed,
immediately
yes,
onto the
yes.
So next thing I was on the 5 selectors.
The Big Five, as
The
they
Big
were
Five,
called,
yeah.
yeah. And how many lads from Bective did you manage to get on the
Well,
Irish
no,
team?
that's the interesting thing.
I
I
hope
wasn't
it.
getting many of the fellas on Bective because there were a lot of them. Well, no, I tell you what, when I went on to it, I was very impressed because a fellow called Mick Carroll, I think his name was, from Terranure. I don't know if you ever knew him, but he was, Terranure had been moved up to senior at that stage. And so Mick was chairman of the senior selectors. And now I remember the first meeting of the 5 selectors and the subs, I think we had 3 standbys who didn't have a vote, you know, but they could contribute to the thing. And Mick said, now listen lads, let's get one thing straight. I'm chairman of this thing, he said, and I don't want anybody
Nepotism.
pushing, he said, everybody is entitled to their crack at their own, you know, at what they do themselves. And that's what our job is, to give these guys a
Best guys
chance.
in, yeah.
So he made it quite clear that this is the way things were going. And I was very impressed with that.
And how many Rangers did you get picked, Maurice?
Only one that there was a slight, but
Wasn't on the back row that Power, a good number 7, that was also in that era.
well, Jim wasn't Jim Murphy O'Connor, no. Oh God, there were some very good fellas, but there were guys better
Yeah.
on other teams. You know, this was chap called Power. He's a solicitor now. He's down in Limerick.
Yeah.
He's a state solicitor down there. He was at UCD and he came to Bate. I got him on, but
You also put first guy to pick John Robbie and Ollie Campbell
John Robbie's only a child then.
to Trinity.
Yeah, only a child.
yeah.
Well,
Out of high school.
I stuck my yard in that, all right. Yeah.
Well, you knew what you were doing because Robbie was a great player.
Yeah.
Absolute great player.
And
But he took off to South Africa and had a great career
And that
down
pair,
there.
and that pair of half-backs were absolutely incredible.
Well,
I mean, Campbell, I think, was one of the best footballers I ever saw.
He was a genius. I remember being a kid and Wardy was a superstar, the pin-up boy. And
Yeah.
they went off to Australia and they may as well have been going to the moon because there was very little TV or anything. You were relying on the radio or the newspapers. And the next thing, Wardy has dropped, Noisy has dropped him, has shafted him for this red-haired little skinny guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Was it 78?
Yeah, 79. I think it was 79 then in Australia. I remember being stunned.
It wasn't, it was South Africa.
Until I saw the match and I saw Ollie Campbell playing and I went, now I understand. I think honestly to this day, and I know Jonathan Sexton's out of here and he was I still think Ollie Campbell's probably the best.
Yeah.
There wasn't a pick on him.
Yeah. That's
And
He
it
was the bravest
and-
guy, never missed a tackle.
And
Ever.
it was every aspect of the game.
Yeah, and he was kicking conversions from touchlines when nobody was doing that, right?
Yeah.
Nobody was doing that.
Yeah.
I remember being up on the North Terrace when we won the Triple Crown in '82. I was in 6th year in school. Thought we wouldn't get out alive. There were so many people there. Horrible day.
Yeah.
Absolute horrible day.
Listen, Kieran got the drop goal, no?
No, that was 85.
85.
85. So 82 was 89, I think, was the score. John Rutherford scored a great try. Laidlaw made a break.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
that was all Scotland did. It was freezing cold, horrible day. Nolly Campbell kicked 18 points, as he did. And we won the Triple
he's
Crown.
good. He's so good.
And that happened to happen.
And
then
modest with it.
and then we had that break for a couple of weeks before we went over to France. Right,
Yeah.
and then just got smashed
Oh,
to pieces
yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ronan Kearney made his debut over there. And I
could
think he
beat them
got
over
carried
there for
off in a
years.
stretcher. Yeah.
Well, if the forwards don't give you...
But you were right on the Ollie Campbell, and you were certainly right on Johnny Robbie.
Oh, well, now.
Johnny Robbie's a super player.
And a great footballer.
Yeah. And he had a big mouth on him too. He's well able to speak. He's well able to speak for
I
himself
know.
now. Great career when he moved down to South Africa.
How long? Sure, he only played with us for about 2 years after he came out of Trinity.
Didn't he go on the tour and he did the Lions tour and he didn't come home? He was working in Guinness's and he lost his
He stayed
job
over
because
there,
of it. And he said, right, but I'm chance of a lifetime, so I'm going to go on the tour. And he stayed out there.
And he had his radio show for years.
Yeah.
That's
Whereas I could talk all night about this, but we need to. We're going to run out of battery and tape on the camera.
yeah.
Rory has to get his bus home.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think haven't been played for Bose.
I want to ask.
No, it's okay, boys, you're right. You can stay for another hour.
I'm going to ask each of you. I kind of finish on the same two questions all the time. We'll start with you, Maurice Jr. And I'm sorry you didn't get an.
Absolutely
but
fine. He deserves it, yeah.
The pressure must have been immense for you when you came in here following in that lineage and that.
Well, I had the same impress, so it was the same sort of pressure.
So you had a great career here as well,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
In your own time, you
Yeah.
were here at my time, and you were locked onto that team for years and captain for 2 years. Who was the best player you played with in your time? I'll come to you later. In your
Yeah.
time, who was the best player you played with?
Wow. So, there's some very, very good guys there over the years, and really top class players. You mentioned Dan earlier on, and he was here for a few years. Phil was great.
Phil Lawler,
Great. But I probably there's a guy I played with, the South African guy, Etienne de Villiers in the centre, came over here for a year. Fantastic rugby player. But I suppose really Kurt McQuillan was probably the best.
And why was that, Murray? I'm smiling because I've heard this answer before. Why was that?
When he came, his first game for us was over in Scotland. We went over to play Gala.
On a Friday night.
That's right, yeah. It was pissing rain.
Yeah, horrible
Fucking-
place.
and
Yeah, horrible night.
That ground up there, up on the borders. I mean, wrong. He played full back, and he hit a tackle in the first. And he wasn't that quick.
No, he wasn't fast and he wasn't big.
But I tell you what, he knew he positioned himself perfectly all day. And he hadn't played full back. Never. He was an out half and a centre. That were the two positions
Correct.
he played. And he hit a tackle, and I was going, "Jeez, that's fucking hell. This guy." I hadn't seen that level
Aggression.
of and physicality in a tackle. We were all still doing our sort of slideys and whatever.
Soap tackles. Yeah.
But then he was, his passing off both sides was superb. His kick above his feet.
Yeah.
I mean, his training was top notch. Everything was up.
He brought Bective to a newer level with his dad,
he
didn't
brought
he?
Ian along, beside him in the centre.
That's
to
Ian
another
Dwyer,
level.
who was a big role coming up
everyone
from
stepped
Carlo.
up
Yeah.
significantly when he came in and played here for the 4 years.
He was like a player coach, wasn't he, on the field?
Significant
Yeah.
contribution. So I mean, it can't, sort of influence, but also as a rugby player, just his IQ was top class.
Rugby intelligence.
He knew, yes, he positioned his play, and because of a guy, in the centre, and I know he got a few caps and he played for Leinster and all, but the influence here was significant. That was a real pity that team didn't get up to that Division 1 and have at least 1 year at
Yeah,
it.
good crack at it because
Kept
we were
together.
good
It was
enough
a good
to
side, yeah.
we
And
were
we'd
good
beaten-
enough to
we'd
play.
beaten a lot of those teams in friendlies and stuff. So
Yeah,
I
and then
don't
cup
think-
matches as well.
We weren't
yeah.
we weren't
We
scared.
weren't far off,
No, we weren't
yes,
far
yeah.
off. No, so I think he probably would be. It has to be my top guy that I played with, certainly.
Okay, and then the kind of secondary part of that. What Ranger in your career? And you had 10 years probably playing here, and then more years as director of rugby.
Yeah.
What Ranger had the biggest influence on you within this club?
Yeah, I mean that's difficult because a lot of very influential Rangers. Or I mean, coming into Bective in the first year, Joe Nolan was great. I mean, he looked after myself and Eddie Doherty like we were superstars. He'd pick us up out in Bury, bring us out to train, he'd give us money to go out. You know, you couldn't have asked for a better mentor in here, and you know, enjoy yourself, but you know, go out and play, and you really, you know, really fantastic. And there's some great coaches that, you know, probably. Mike Ruddock was fantastic. You know, when he came in here, he
tends to get a little overlooked in the history of this place. Mike was
huge influence,
huge influence,
and brought, you know, certainly from as a player, you know, what level you needed to be at to be consistently performing well, and what he expected. And he was a great leader. He'd get in your ear and he'd say things to you to motivate you that hadn't happened to you before. So that was, and I used that later on in your
business work. Yes,
huge. Harry Harbison. First guy to put me on the wing when he coached the team. Somebody didn't turn up on a trip down to the Mardyke, and Harry ended up having to play, and I got moved from the centre onto the wing. That was how that happened.
To let Harry play in the centre?
No, Harry played
in the pack, and everybody was shuffled down.
We were down one player. He didn't turn up, and I think I scored 2 or 3 tries, and now suddenly I was released from this congested midfield where, you know,
where you get a bit of space out in the wing.
And then he was very great. He was great. I loved him. He was just a professional. You know, I mean, he was another trained at a certain level.
And Kurt was in the centre when you were on the wing, was he?
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. I was scoring 16, 17.
Like in my house, that back line, there was Kurt and Ian Dwyer, Mulch, and then you and Ben on the wing scoring try for fun.
Oh yeah, we
scoring tries for fun.
It was a great side.
Great side.
And a great brand of rugby as well. You know, it was really exciting. So there you go.
Okay, and Maurice Snr, the final 2 questions for you as well. Who's the best player you played with in your career? And I'll let you include Ireland as well, but Ireland to Bective, because there were some superstars in here in Bective in your time as well.
Yeah, and
like you played with Morgan.
And you had a better look at them because you were playing week after week, and the contribution was consistent.
So on strictly on a player point of view, who's the best player you probably encountered in your career?
I think it was Jim Murphy O'Connor.
And why was that? Now talk us through that, because long before our time, what position did he play?
He was number 8.
And was he a Ranger or was he an Ireland player?
He was a Ranger.
He was a Ranger.
He was the family. They're a Cork family, but his branch of it are over in England. Mm-hmm. And Murph had played with the Navy. You know, they had all
the big Army Navy matches over there.
But they had to do
your national service.
National service and something, and Jim did it and he had played with them when he came back to the College of Surgeons to get his medical degree. So College of Surgeons had it, but they only played junior rugby. So he came down to Bective, and we had this very good back line, but we couldn't get bloody good ball. This is during the 50s. The pack just weren't up to it. You hadn't line out. We hadn't a 100% line out man. And Butch Costello now, all the strength and power of the world, but he wasn't that tall. But so Murph did that. Then it turned out that he had a tremendous grasp of the game. You know, he was a
rugby knows, he understood the game.
Absolutely. And he had every shot. And it made a huge difference. We suddenly had ball coming to us, and then the UCD fellas came in, because you know I remember Jack O'Maloney came in shortly after that, and that led to a big flow, and you know that's how we won 2 cups in the 55 and 56, because now we had a pack that were giving us the ball. And they were beating every pack in the country, and
So I love that from the sense of a man who's played with Kyle, and who's played for Ireland for a couple of seasons, and you've played here
and played
with Cliff Morgan, and yet you pick a guy from Cork as the best player you played. I just love that. It's such a Bective thing. It's absolutely brilliant.
Well, he was a great thing. Well, his brother actually was a cardinal. You know,
We won't hold that against
he
him.
was the boss man in England. You know, he was in charge of their RC church. I mean, they're a very intellectual family. I only found all this afterwards when Jim was long gone.
And the supplementary to that, final question. What ranger within the club do you think had the most influence on you in your life?
Tom O'Brien.
Tom O'Brien. Oh, so I have no idea who Tom O'Brien is.
Tom O'Brien, I think Kennedy O'Brien, his elder brother, was the only Bective man I remember during the war who used to be picked constantly on the Leinster team and also on the Irish team. And he had a row and went down to Lansdowne and finished his career. This is Kennedy O'Brien. So Tom was his younger brother. They were very big in the leather business, and they had a big big sport shops where leather, I suppose rugby boots and football boots and all saddles and all that carry on. But Bective had kind of, since the 30s, the team had won nothing and they had declined. There was a lot of drinking being done here apparently. Now this is when I'd been at school and with Grace, and suddenly Tom shut the bar until after the game was played on a Saturday afternoon. Wasn't opened at all on Sunday. The lads, that was a training day, and therefore that.
So he changed the culture.
Changed the culture of the club. And when he went back down to Carlow, he resurrected that and did exactly the same thing for the provincial towns. I'd say, yeah, Tom O'Brien.
Okay.
And and thanks be to God, he was on both teams himself as a wing forward.
Yeah. In the cup winning teams.
In the cup winning teams.
Maurice, I could talk to you all night. I know you, right? So
I've nothing more to say.
I'm sorry I didn't.
No, you're absolutely fine.
I could talk to you all night. I think your stories and the history and what we're trying to do here is kind of put together a rugby archive and a club archive of. And what you've contributed tonight has been exactly what we had when the three of us were troubleshooting this and trying to envisage what we wanted. This is exactly what we were looking for.
Good.
The memories and the stories. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your 70-year service. Thank you for your service. Not quite 70 years, but we hope we'll get that out of you. You both, you've created a bit of a family dynasty here. Right, without blowing smoke up your arse, but you have.
I'm the first one, I am. It's the first Mortell.
And the club would like to thank you for your service, as they say in America. Thank you for your service. The stories are absolutely fantastic. I've had an absolute blast. I had a great time as a rugby nerd doing my research on this. And I only wish we had more time, but thank you.
I think we're talked out. I have nothing more to say.
And Maurice, my apologies, you didn't get too much in.
Absolutely fine. No problem. Enjoy that
We'll get you back again.
Loads of time.
Thanks a million. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that, folks. That's a wrap. There's a great story when the Lions were in New Zealand in '71, and there was a Welsh guy was the manager, and the Pontypool front row were all. Bobby Windsor was the biggest messer alive, and he comes out of this hotel. He gets on the bus, and the lads are all sitting there, and he goes, "I've just been handed a bill for £100. Somebody has been ringing home every night since we arrived in this hotel a week ago. Who is it? Does anybody want to own up?" And there's silence in the bus. Like school kids, nobody talks. First guy to talk loses. And he goes, "The phone number is Pontypool 174.
I know what's coming.
Quick as a flash, Windsor jumps up and went, "Which one of you fuckers is ringing my wife?" Oh, I know that story. Absolutely love that story.
Deflect immediately.
Yeah.